You ever daydream about retiring at 55? Like leaving your job, moving somewhere sunny, and finally living on your own terms? Well, if you've ever wondered how that would actually affect your Social Security, especially if you're queer, single, or part of a same sex couple, this one's for you. Because the truth is, retiring early feels great until the Social Security math kicks in. Hi, I'm Zan. Welcome back to Prideful Wealth, where we talk about queer money, smart investing, and making work optional. Today, we're breaking down what actually happens to Social Security if you retire at 55. We'll look at how much earlier you're walking away, what that means for your benefits, and how to fill the gap until your checks start rolling in. So if you're planning your early exit, grab a coffee. This one's important. All right, let's start with some context. Most people retire between 62 and 67 because that's when Social Security kicks in. But what if you decide to peace out at 55? First off, huge congrats. According to Yahoo Finance, only 11% of Americans retire that early. You'd officially be part of the early retiree club. Now, here's the catch. At 55, you cannot collect Social Security yet. So you need to self-fund your lifestyle for at least a couple years, at least until you can claim at 62 or 67. That's a 7 to 15 year window where you're on your own. No monthly check, no backup from Uncle Sam, which means your investments, pensions, or savings accounts are going to have to do the heavy lifting. If you're lucky enough to have a 401k with the rule of 55, you can tap that without penalty. Otherwise, you'll be relying on brokerage accounts, Roth contributions, or a high yield savings account to bridge the gap. Here's a real life example. Let's say you and your partner, Alex, decide to retire early. You both worked since your 20s, have saved consistently, and by 55, you've hit your magic number. If you both stop working then, your Social Security record freezes, meaning the system uses your 35 highest earning years to calculate benefits. If you've worked fewer than 35 years, the system fills the missing years with zeros. And those zeros drag your monthly earnings down, which directly lowers your benefit. Here's what that looks like. If you've averaged $50,000 per year for 30 years instead of 35 years, that missing 5 years could drop your monthly benefit by about $200. That's roughly $2,400 a year, and over a 25-year retirement, that's $60,000 gone. So yeah, those zeros matter. Now let's talk timing. If you claim at 62, you'll only get about 70% of your full benefit. At full retirement age, usually about 67, you get 100%. Wait until 70, that number jumps to 124%, an 8% increase every year you wait after 67. But here's the real question. Can you afford to wait? If you've got strong investments, sure. But if you're living mostly off savings, you'll want to run the numbers because drawing too much too soon can shrink your portfolio faster than you can think. Here's something most people forget. When you retire at 55, you're probably walking away from your highest earning years. For many of us, especially those who took career breaks for a transition, caregiving, or discrimination related job changes, those later years are where we're finally starting earning what we're worth. And Social Security replaces your highest 35 years of income. So if you leave early, you might miss out on replacing lower early career years with those high income ones. Translation: fewer big numbers on your Social Security record equals smaller checks later. And if you're LGBTQ, this hits a little harder. Many of us had late starts, maybe because we transitioned later in life, faced career discrimination, or didn't have that same family financial safety nets. That means every earned year counts. So if you're considering early retirement, factor in how many working years you've logged. If you're short 35, it might be worth working a few more, even part-time, just to replace those zeros. Let's sum this up. If you retire at 55, you'll likely need to self-fund for 7 to 15 years before Social Security. Plan for smaller checks if you have under 35 earning years. Weigh your timing, claiming early versus waiting for that 8% growth per year. Balance your lifestyle so your investments can stretch the distance. It's doable. Tons of early retirees make it work, but it takes planning, math, and probably a few spreadsheets. The good news, you can absolutely retire early, especially if you start building your plan now. Use a high yield savings account, automate your investments, and make sure your 35-year earnings record is as strong as possible. Social Security might be the icing on the cake, but it's not the whole meal. If you found this helpful, check out my video, How to Retire at 50 with No Penalties. It's all about the IRS loophole that can make early retirement totally legal and surprisingly queer friendly. I'll see you next time.